Hey everyone. We're going to get to the main conversation in a few minutes, but just before we started this hangout, we started talking a little bit about rumors and a bunch of Apple rumors, and rumors are always fun to dig into a little bit. One of the rumors we were talking about was a smaller phone.
Yes, I was talking about an iPhone 5 6C.
6C.
4-inch.
You know, if they didn't do it with this cycle, I'd be surprised to see them go back to a much smaller phone. But a lot of people have been asking for it since the 6 was released. And I think that was the surprise for people, that when the 6 came out, they didn't have anything that fit the 5S size, which a lot of people like. They went bigger and even bigger. And I think that was a surprise to a lot of people. And then with this new cycle of the 6S, they still didn't have a smaller phone, which I think surprised a lot of people. So I don't know, I'm a terrible prognosticator with these things, but it feels like they're not going to go back to a smaller phone. That's just not the direction phones
It doesn't make sense.
are going. I mean, I don't know.
Some people would want it, but they do whatever they want.
Yeah,
Well, but if you look at the same thing in the Android space, like phones, even before Apple was doing the bigger phones, like Samsung, LG, all these companies were doing bigger and bigger phones. When Ed gets back, like he's been using the Nexus 6, which to me is just like an abomination. The thing is gigantic. But I also feel that way about the 6 Plus.
Yeah,
It's just like it crosses the line of being comfortable to use.
Yeah.
Now that said, I commute around Manhattan and I see people on the subways and Long Island Railroad and Metro North sitting there with their
6
gigantic phones
with the OtterBox on it.
Yeah, oh my gosh. The Otter. Yeah.
Well, now people want to watch TV. They want to stream while they're in the train. So I guess it makes sense to have a bigger phone.
That's true. Well, maybe
And then again, you can have an iPad Mini.
iPad Mini.
For that case, yeah.
But I think that's the thing. You get the 6S Plus or a big Android phone, and then you have one device.
Yeah.
But that one device, like I know the 6S Plus, or I have a 6 Plus that I use to test with, and like it doesn't fit into my pocket. Like it's just like, what do I do with this thing? I don't know. So yeah, as a rumor, it's a good question. The other rumor we were talking about were TVs. The
Yes.
Apple coming out with an actual TV, not just a little box, but an actual Apple TV. That rumor's been going on for a really long time, and just like the car, will there be an Apple car? Like I find that one really hard to.
That's a ways off.
Yeah.
I think that, like, if you're Apple, do you want to get into the game of manufacturing automobiles? Hey, there's a reason I'm not an independently wealthy person, I guess, because I don't take these big risks and figure out these trends, right? But
I think there's a lesson to learn. Microsoft have tried a lot, many things, and they have failed with the tablet. They failed the tablet. Apple's up there. So I don't know if Apple looks at that and says, maybe I shouldn't go that route. Maybe we'll look bad if we do go that route. A car sounds kind of...
Yeah, a car sounds like just so far out of the ballpark for... Like, I could see Apple coming up with... Like, they're already doing CarPlay. I could see them partnering with BMW or someone to do an actual, like, in-dash, like, here's the Apple experience in your car. I can see that. Wow, them manufacturing automobiles. I mean, I guess Tesla's doing it, right?
Yeah.
Maybe they'll follow the Tesla model and they'll sell a couple hundred cars per year rather than Toyota, who sells,
They can manage the
hundreds
price.
of thousands or whatever the number is. Like, that seems like such a leap and a whole new area of liability.
Absolutely.
I don't know if I was
A lot of
Apple.
lawsuits, yeah.
I don't know what Google's model is with the self-driving cars. Again, self-driving cars are like a ways off for a whole number of reasons. Google has had great tests run in California, Nevada, but we all know here on the East Coast, that's the mother of all challenges because of the seasons and winter. Winter is just these cars, not the cars, but whatever sensors and everything cannot figure out winter, right? Everything's blanketed in white. I can't figure out where anything is.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So, that's an interesting challenge. And back to the TV, like, is this an area Apple wants to get involved in? And that one is more reasonable.
More reasonable than a car, absolutely.
Yeah. I could see that happening.
But again, that's just slapping some hardware together, because what is a smart TV? It's smart, and then it's the display. And they already have deals with display manufacturers.
Right. And
so it's just putting a pretty Apple case around it all. And
I've lost track. Does Apple sell any display? Do they still sell their Thunderbolt display?
I don't know.
I think they might have dropped out of displays altogether. I mean, obviously, there's the laptop, and they make, they
Apple is too quick to do that. They'll come out with something, and then they'll drop it. It's like, okay, we have all this money.
Addicted to trimming the fat.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's better than if they realize it's not selling the way they want it
The
to
MacBook,
sell.
the Mac, the canister. You don't hear about that much sometimes. Supposedly, it's made here in the United States now, in Texas.
I have one, and it's,
you have one?
it's a great machine.
Okay.
But I think there'll be another rev to that. I don't think they're giving up on that.
I got
but
you.
what that device was
Mm-hmm.
for late 2013, super powerful.
So
it's not like
right?
it's not like you start using that machine here at the end of 2015 and say like, oh man, this thing needs so much more power.
Mhm.
Like, it's a powerful machine, 2 GPUs.
Okay.
Yeah, they do still have Thunderbolt display up.
Oh, they do.
on their
Okay.
store.
Well, that's good to know. So
$27,000.
maybe a
How
TV
much?
isn't
$1,000
Oh,
for the
okay.
27.
maybe a TV isn't terribly far off. I don't know. I can see that one happening, whereas the car just feels out of reach. But whether I can see it happening or not, my personal feeling is I don't want it to happen. Like, all these smart TVs are just universally pretty awful. I still think I would rather have a dumb TV, a display that I hook up an Apple TV to. But maybe I'm not appreciating the right market for that. Maybe the right market for that is the older crowd. My parents.
Yeah.
They just want to buy a TV, put it in their den or wherever, and connect it and have that be everything, rather than, oh, I have to buy this separate thing and plug it in. And I don't know.
My brother just recently, his 16-inch Samsung went out, so he went and bought a 4K Vizio. My son was telling him to buy a 4K, so he buys the TV. My son calls me, says, the brother calls me yelling at me because he said that he's looking at something called the soap opera effect. Now, I thought the soap opera effect was something that he made up, but if you actually look at it, it actually looks too clear. It looks like, how we normally watch TV and you see a little glitter and all?
Yeah.
This was just so clear. But then he found out later that the refresh rate.
It's annoying. It makes everything look like a home movie.
Yeah.
I don't know.
That's what it
It
does.
depends on the content you're putting into
okay.
it. But
Because it's an LED screen,
Okay.
right? That's what I think the issue is. More than the 4K, I think that's because of the
Oh, so
more than the
that's what it
4K,
does.
it's
It makes it
LED.
look.
high refresh rate, high
That's a
resolution.
high refresh rate.
Refresh rate.
Sir,
Like that.
Hello. Hey, regulars.
We made it.
Yeah, sorry about that. I did.
My phone's there.
For anyone, well, no, actually, partially my fault. Anyone on the Hangout who's wondering what I'm talking about, we have people who meet up locally, of course, and I did have one place left on the sites page that still said show up on the 9th Avenue.
9th Avenue for the
Sorry.
fourth floor.
So that's corrected now. I apologize. The meetings page had it correct, but the front page still had a reference to 9th Avenue.
well, these days you have to update the site and the Twitter.
Yeah,
And the
I know.
Slack.
A lot of places to go push it out. So we were just wrapping up, but waiting for you for Eigerman to be able to bring everyone down here talking about some Apple rumors. But it looks like Eigerman is unboxing an iPad Pro keyboard.
Yeah,
Let's see it.
it's a really nice box.
Oh, the boxes, yeah.
The wife was saying that the keyboard cover makes it so thick.
Yeah.
Well, so Ed and I were talking about let's get right to this. Let's talk about the iPad Pro. Does anyone have an iPad Pro?
I do.
So
Yeah,
I have one that that I left. Oh no,
Wait a minute,
it's in a
that
different
looks
slot
so-
in my bag. So I have an iPad Pro.
Yeah,
Yeah,
You're
It's
gonna lose
okay,
your
I got
iPad
it.
Pro.
I
That'd be a
see.
problem.
Let's-
Okay.
let's-
At first, it looked like it was gonna flip over, but
So the thing with the iPad Pro, I've been on a roller coaster with the iPad Pro, to be honest with
Thing
you.
is
Like,
it's not
it's
small.
enormous. For
Uh-huh.
anyone who wants to see this, like, do we have something else to like compare it with? Like,
This-
here's a regular
this-
iPad, and here's the iPad Pro, and the Pro is kind of enormous.
This is what you should be comparing.
Yeah.
And yeah, and it's larger
That's
than a MacBook 12-inch if you want to compare the two. Like, there's the screen size; it's much larger.
Yep.
But
There's a lot of bezel.
it's it's comparable weight, I think, to the MacBook, right? Like, they're about the same. And I don't know who to point fingers at, but the logistics at Apple totally broke down with the iPad Pro because Apple made a big deal about the amazing keyboard and the pencil being defining factors of the iPad Pro, and they were just not available day one with the iPad Pro.
Yeah,
Which was
people
silly.
getting their shipments now that had ordered it.
Yes. So I got the pencil today,
Mm.
and as you can see, we got the case today. But I mean the keyboard today. But in the interim, Ed and I tried the third-party Logitech keyboard, and boy, like we were talking about OtterBox cases for iPhones before. This is effectively the OtterBox case for the iPad Pro. So it made this thing so enormous and heavy and unwieldy. I immediately gave up on it.
I don't know if it looks heavier now. It's not gonna do.
No, but so the Apple Smart Cover, whatever, is actually very nice. But the keyboard, like, this seems to be a pretty reasonable keyboard that you could keep on all the time.
And if you're used to this keyboard, it is exactly the same minus the rubbery cover.
Right. So people that I've heard talk about the Logitech keyboard, they like it because it's basically the same keys as the 15-inch, like the old style. So it has a little bit more trouble. It's actually backlit.
Huh.
So it's like
It is back, but that is really nice.
It is
about
backlit.
Adorable.
It's like a real keyboard, which is great, but it's enormous. It's
It's
enormous.
also a lot cheaper than Apple's.
It's a little cheaper.
It's not much.
So
It was
much?
still $100 and some odd
Yeah.
dollars.
It's less crazy expensive, but
How much
still
is Apple's? 170?
170.
Yeah, and the Logitech
Which is
one
crazy
was
expensive.
150 or 130.
I mean, for that you get a trackpad.
Oh,
That was insane.
um,
I was like, Mazel tov, you can actually ask for
So-
those prices.
Ed and I think, came at the iPad Pro for different reasons and with different goals in mind. I don't know what my goal was, but
You carrying it around all day like that?
no, I
Yeah.
actually do not travel with it. And I think here's the reason why.
So it's a mobile desktop.
It's a desktop iPad is what I'm finding. And so I've gone on this roller coaster ride with it. Like, I first started using it and I had the initial, it's just a big iPad.
We see
And
it.
then I slowly figured out that, yes, the graphics apps and the drawing apps are where it's at. And as a desktop device, it's great to do this. If this table were a little bit smaller and we were all crowded around and it was sat in the middle of the table and we were all using it.
You have
It's-
that amazing scene from an
No, but
architectural firm where you're touching things. and
no, but
things are
I
coming
do.
up for
You know what?
clients.
I will say this is the first time where I feel that's like a real thing, because we could, like, with a laptop, it's someone's laptop, and you feel very conscious of, like, oh, can I just type, or let me use the mouse? Where this, like, yeah, we could, like, if I showed you something and said, yeah, look at this, and you could say, no, you know what? This should be over here. Yeah. Like, I don't think people should feel bad about sort of like reaching out and touching this or saying like, no, this is what we want, right? Like, it's great for that.
Some of that comes from the single purpose app
Yes.
as opposed to
Yes, it's a focus device. You're only looking at one thing. Now, so then I started going on, like, that was the roller coaster going up, like on a real high with this thing. Like, wow, this is an amazing device. But then I started thinking about, like, this thing is $1,200. This is an amazing luxury.
Yeah.
Mm.
So now, like, I don't dislike the device, but I do feel like, who is this for? Like, who is this for? You know, again, like, I understood Tim Cook when he said, I don't know if anyone wants to look at this or use it.
Well,
or
when they first announced
use
it,
the pencil, have at it. But Tim Cook did say something like, oh, hey, people can replace their PC with it. I'm not sure I would want, if I could only choose one thing, if I'm spending $1,200 on one thing, I don't know I would want that over any Mac for that matter, but I don't think I would.
And would the screen size be the clincher, whereas you didn't dump your desktop and laptop for an iPad before, but now you will?
I don't think so. That's my point. Like, it's, I don't know. Like, I do very often find people who say, like, oh my God, you know, the iPad's, you know, amazing. I can do all my work on it. I can't. I don't know who those people are, but like, just even copying and pasting things between two applications is still incredibly frustrating.
and I also noticed too that when you write on it, like he just said before, it doesn't convert it into. An
Well,
actual-
that depends on the app, but like, I still
Well,
think this is
there's
amazing.
no handwriting keyboard. Like there's no,
Oh, right.
like that's frustrating.
Wasn't
Like
there something in OS
I had
10,
that on
like
my-
ink?
Yes.
there's ink. I mean, I
Yeah.
had that on my Newton, right?
Right.
My,
Eat up Martha.
my Palm
What
Pilot
year is
had-
this? Come
my
on,
Palm
Apple.
Pilot had that. Like there's no.
Yeah, but I don't know that people are like on this screen. I want to scratch into it.
Well, so
like
Ed
my
was talking
tags.
about like you may be right, maybe absolutely.
Yeah,
But
so
the Ed was talking
let's
are
hear your-
different use cases. I was excited about this because I'm taking a couple of courses,
Mhm.
and like I bought the Kindle version of the textbook, thinking
Mhm.
that's great. I have a Kindle.
Mhm.
Kindle version of textbook doesn't work on the Kindle
Mhm.
because it's all the
Sorry,
pages
can
are.
you repeat that?
The Kindle version, the Kindle version of the textbook doesn't work on the Kindle
Mm.
because the pages are all formatted. The Kindle doesn't do that.
Mhm.
And the truth is, you even using it on a
Good
regular
job, Amazon.
iPad, it's too small.
Yeah, this is textbook size.
This is a textbook size, and also, I figure I can
Tabloidish.
I can
yeah.
take notes on it.
So who's the
And-
target there?
Well, so if I was a college student, $1,200, I'll save $1,200 in 3 semesters on textbooks if I'm taking the right courses.
Right, but here's the other thing that I thought of. Like, I have a daughter who's getting ready for college now. Sending her off to school, am I going to send her with a laptop or an iPad? And the answer is laptop.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree.
Right? Like, I don't even know who this is the one device.
I don't. Yeah, I don't.
Well,
I don't.
when they first announced this, they were focusing more on people who draw a lot.
Yeah, I think
So,
that
Artists.
is
artists, yes.
absolutely the core user set as far as I can see for this device. Like, my wife is an artist, and like I said, I just got the pencil today, but like giving that to her and letting her draw on it and having sort of like, and use your fingers and now possibly with the pencil, like seeing what that's like, I think that's going to be a really interesting.
Well, he just showed me
Experience.
he just showed me a blueprint, and he was
Right.
able to go in
Like
there.
this is
and
the one really
change
useful
things
thing
around.
I've
Yeah,
ever
that's
done
cool.
with the
That's
pencil.
kind of cool.
That's cool, but it's not anything you couldn't
Do on the regular iPad.
with your Mac or with a regular iPad if needed. You go
But
buy
it's a much
pencil
nicer-
from 53 or whatever it's called.
Right. So actually, pencil is. I was using pencil with this pencil. It's pretty nice.
Yeah, I don't see other styluses that I'm like, I want to use this for any extended period of time, or I can feel comfortable
I mean,
trying to do something that is like markup.
everyone talks about how amazing this is, and the truth is, the thing that's amazing about it. I mean, yeah, it has, it's responsive to pressure and all stuff.
Oops.
The thing that's amazing about it is it's exactly like a pencil
Yeah.
or a
Yeah.
pen. It's a nice heavy pen.
It does. The
It's
pencil
not
feels
weird.
really
It's
nice.
not.
Here's the problem with pencil. First off,
The problem with it is nowhere to put it.
yes.
What the hell?
The first thing is when I showed the iPad Pro to my 13-year-old daughter,
Uh-oh.
I tried to explain to her like, oh, and the exciting thing is there will be this pencil. That's what Apple's put. There's going to be the special pencil, and that's the first thing she asked. She's like, well, where do you
Where does it
store
go?
it? Where does it go?
Uh.
So Apple, like if you
What
thought
the
these
hell?
MagSafe 2 connectors, like
Adapters.
Apple is making billions, $10 at a time, that thing's going to get lost. And here's the other crazy thing. It comes with this in
You've
the
lost it,
box. I've lost this like 3 times already today. It comes with, for anyone who wants to see this on the Hangout, it comes with this, which is a female-to-female lightning adapter to charge the pencil with. There's no way I'm not losing this.
So it doesn't connect directly to.
It-
Well, you can
you
charge
can
it from
ch-
you can charge it from your iPad, but if you want to charge them at the same time, you need that.
Yes, you can charge it from your iPad.
It
Here's-
looks like that.
Are you kidding me?
It's very
Okay,
happy.
so you can charge it from your iPad, or you can charge it with a regular Lightning cable using this, which I am unquestionably using
Oh, so you'll connect another one to
this. Yes, it's a female to female. So
Or
you
you could stick
connect the
this-
Lightning and then you connect the
Now,
pencil.
let
You
me
could
ask you a
stick this
question.
directly into your wall unit.
You
No,
have
but
a
it's
wall
USB
unit
though.
that's female
It's USB.
lightning?
No, it's not
Yeah, it's
USB.
USB, yeah.
Can you
Right.
charge that on any iPad, or just
I have no idea.
That's a
if
good
it'll
question. I don't know.
we haven't tried that. So the pencil only works with the Pro. You can
Okay.
only pair it
Yeah,
and use it
that I
with the Pro.
understand.
You can't,
right?
which
But I was just wondering if you can
seems like
charge
a
it.
missed opportunity, but okay.
Yeah.
But will it charge? I don't know. There's no charging indicator on the pencil, so you wouldn't know.
It has one button.
And actually,
How do we get less buttons?
before I used this, I tried for a week the Surface. What's the
this-
Surface one with
The pen.
a pen, and it has a keyboard that has a screen you pop off and turn around, like the Surface
Surface
Pro.
Pro.
Surface
Yeah,
Pro.
Surface Pro. Which, besides Windows, was great.
Yeah.
I still hate Windows, but it has a place for the pen, and it has a very nice. The pen really works well. It's probably not quite as elegant as this thing, but it works really nicely, and there's a place to put it on the damn laptop. So
I just took a Japanese test on Sunday, and you need to know how to draw to be able to know the difference between the gosh darn characters. Otherwise, they're all gonna look the same. After a certain point, they're gonna look too close to understand. That's a lot of screen space for notifications, huh?
That's why you got 2 rows of notifications.
Oh yeah, you
So
can
on
see
the
the.
notifications on the batteries,
you can see
you
the-
get the pen.
But does it show you while it's charging, or does it show the current level?
right?
Yeah, I think you can go into the notification center and it shows
Yeah.
you the battery level, right?
But so I spent a lot of time looking at this at the Apple Store, practicing my calligraphy.
But you should
Yeah,
be-
it
And
shows-
the people
shows
next to
you
me are
charging.
kind of like,
it does.
how do you do
Charging
half
steps.
screen,
It
half
shows you
and
what?
half apps?
Charging?
And like it's only certain the poor
That's been very
sales
disappointing.
pitch
It
of the
does show
people
that
in the
it's
store. It's so difficult for them to say, oh, well, it kind of works in certain apps, and you kind of have to grab it here, and it's like all
Yeah.
finesse to make the gosh darn thing work. Of course, like the software is where most people right off the bat were kind of like, this is not ready for prime time as a.
I was very
thing.
excited about picture-in-picture. Like I could watch a Netflix picture there. The screen will be there, picture will be there, but the
Yeah.
video will stop playing.
Oh, that doesn't make that.
That sounds like a bug.
That sounds like a bug. That I'm assuming that.
I assume Netflix will fix that, but the
I
only
didn't
thing
want
YouTube-
it.
I
I
know
would switch
YouTube
away
works.
from YouTube, and like it would be going,
Oh,
and I'm kind of like,
yeah.
what are you doing there?
Yeah.
Like,
It doesn't matter.
I wasn't expecting you to
Yeah.
to come with me.
So on the IRC, Surf NYC says apparently a lot of students at Xavier High School are using tablets, iPads. So I asked if those are provided by the school, and Surf NYC says no. So and he's saying it's all about the textbook publishers. That's interesting, but I would still love to know, like, if those students also end up using, how much they end up also using laptops or know, in-school computers or something, because like
Something to supplement.
there's still, you know, unfortunately, here we are, almost 2016. There are still like browser specific. Oh, you need this plugin to run our educational app or whatever. Like on an iPad, you're not getting away with doing that, right? So, fortunately, those are diminishing, but they're not extinct yet. So.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, as soon as the pencil can be used with other iPads, like specifically the Mini, I'll get a pencil. I'll be super happy to refresh my Mini.
I mean, like, I mean, I assume like there's no handwriting input with the pencil in kanji either, or in Chinese. Like, that's been around
There is.
forever.
There is.
With the pencil?
Not with a pencil.
No, I'm saying that's been in the OS forever.
Yes.
But why like?
Well, the OS 10, no. They needed to for Chinese off the bat because they just didn't have enough good input methods. They also like mimicked certain cell phones input methods. So cell phones were not trying to do kanji to real printed character translation, but you could get close enough and it would suggest.
Right.
But this was like super great to do. Like, it's hard enough for me to use a pen with a very fine point and be able to tell what the hell I'm writing, or get it to look like the stroke order drawing that I'm going for. But yeah. I'm waiting for it to be available that it filters down the line.
Yeah.
That
But
I
that's
can
a
use
matter
the
of
pencil.
time.
Totally.
So
Even the keyboard. Like,
Yep.
The keyboard would be way more coming in handy if I didn't think about pairing Bluetooth every single time I wanted to use it.
Well, this keyboard's not Bluetooth.
Right. The fact
it's
that
not.
the fact that it is just
it's not.
like
It just
lay and play.
Oh, because they're pogo
There's-
pins, right?
It's
Because they're pins. Yeah.
Connects via
They're-
the pogo pins.
Yeah.
Pull the
You
thread.
can see the little three nubbins.
no,
That is what also charges the keyboard, essentially. Like the
Okay.
keyboard needs some type of electrical current.
good gravy.
but the keyboard has no battery in it. Or like,
Right.
I don't know, which is the big difference. Like that Logitech keyboard has a battery
Has a
to
battery,
charge
right.
the,
It
to
was
charge the
separately.
keyboard.
Yeah, it was
So
just
it weighs as much as the
enormous.
iPad does. This is on. I mean,
So schools are going to love it because schools hated the extra
Yeah.
overhead
Of course.
of
This
having to charge
it's
it.
about the same weight as the keyboard of the case. The case.
But you know, there's
I have the cover.
All right. So that's the iPad Pro. I still am trying to figure out.
First time I saw one in the wild
Let me feel the
was
weight.
I was at a restaurant, and in the bar section
I don't.
there were 20 guys doing fantasy football, taking bets. No cash, online only,
Huh.
because you can't bet in
Well,
person.
I can see this being used in restaurants for menus.
Yep.
Yeah.
I can see
It's
that.
an expensive.
It is,
I
but-
can't just because of the cost. I cannot see. Not that
Oh,
you
come
would-
on. It's only
I've seen-
$979 to start.
I've
I'm saying
seen-
you wouldn't pass this around to customers for almost $1,000.
Well, I
can see it as a-
would think like those big,
mounted
expensive
display.
type of restaurants. You go to Spain or whatever, those people they might have those.
Yeah, I'm gonna put this in my pocket before I lose.
Wow. That's
So
small.
here's the thing that I think on a larger scale is interesting and significant about the iPad Pro. I think that the big thing about it is that it's an indication that Apple's gotten large enough
Yes.
and successful enough that every product doesn't have to be a super right. It doesn't have to
Runaway.
please everybody. It has to be a runaway big hit. They can produce a niche product like, you know,
Totally agree.
the iPad
Like a Mac
Pro, like a Mac Pro, and make money on it and not worry about.
And you think about a medium or small business that would come out with a product and do
Right.
reasonably well, and they, carve out earnings. Apple's earnings on iPad Pro are going to stomp all over those numbers.
Right.
So why not?
Well, they always price themselves into a good position.
Absolutely. So,
What do you need?
oh yeah, I had a question for anyone who might be. Oh yeah, I have a question for anyone who might be managing smaller deployments.
A USB cord.
Yeah. I am very curious about anyone who's working with smaller deployments and how they manage their Macs at smaller deployments, or if that's necessary at all.
What?
50 to 100 users. Like,
Is that actually charging?
Yes.
That's small.
USB
You can kind of get away with,
using too much
you
power.
can get away with not managing at all.
or not using tools.
Not
I mean,
using-
IBM doesn't manage it all, so they manage 50 pieces of software, and they're a consulting company that writes software.
Wait, what do you? I don't understand what you mean. They don't manage at all. They manage their internal fleet.
Oh, they use MDM, but that to me isn't the same as management. That's
Well-
configuration, right? That's like bare base level configuration. When you don't have like orchestration, when you're not doing remote monitoring and management, when you're not doing software patching, like then that you may as well just call it BYOD.
Well,
When you manage tens of thousands of computers with a 20-person phone desk, you can't consider that managing, I think.
what's the difference?
The
What are you
diff-
saying the difference is?
I'm saying that the difference is that they don't do, there's like a line of enforcement that you need to do because you kind of have to. And then there's anything else that you could do to provide services to them so that they'll stay safe, they'll have a productive experience. When they fend for themselves, it's kind of BYOD. And when you only enforce a baseline and you do nothing kind of above that based on supplying a service to
Okay.
them,
That's fair enough.
and that's like all, of course, secondhand that we hear about IBM in the first place. But
Yeah. But all right.
I mean, we're small in the fact that our 30-day actives are probably less than 3 digits. That's like at this moment in time.
So what are you doing for management then?
We're Monkey, and we're moving away from the Casper suite onto Sal and Puppet.
So you would say that you actually do management, the traditional management that that
Yep.
we were just kind of talking about.
Like imaging starts there. IBM does not image. I just talked about it during the podcast with Frogger. That like when you don't image, you decide that you're not concerned with the beginning state of the computer or that it has a known state to begin with. You don't mind
you
whatever
say-
comes out of a box.
Okay. Or someone can even bring in their own device.
Which is a big difference depending on the circumstances.
Yeah, absolutely.
And IBM is saying that quite clearly, it's a non-starter for us to have to image or to give Apple an image to send our computers with.
Well, yeah, the Apple solution we looked at that quite some time ago, and speaking of non-starters, it takes way too long.
It takes way too long. They charge way too much for
They
it.
charge, but if it was like that, would have been fine for us if it was if the
Was it
solution
service?
would have worked for us. But the issue with that was like, oh, there's a bug in this, or there's an update, or whatever. Here's a new package. You send it to Apple, they're like, yeah, we'll deploy it next quarter. Okay, that doesn't help us. So that was the sticking point for us more than anything. Yeah.
I mean, smaller places, I think it's still crazy that for all we know, for example, Greg could use, Mr. Nagel the Bagel could use just HTTP and Monkey, and he's got everything he needs. And a lot of people should kind of get into that idea because you're providing a good service when they don't need to go to random internet sites to download updates,
Oh, absolutely.
or they don't just trust any notification that they get on their machine.
Right.
Like, I think that's a great experience to give to customers. And then if they can be standard users, if you can get away with that, life is much easier in a whole bunch of other ways. So, like, I don't think that you need to do a lot at a small scale to have a good management experience.
Well, maybe it's more about the support than in a smaller place. That people bring their own device, they can get apps. There's a little bit of management, perhaps.
Is the Hangout offline?
It shouldn't be, not that I can
Getting
tell.
complaints in IRC.
Oh, IRC, there are always complaints.
Getting complaints in Slack.
Uh,
2 different channels in Slack. Whoever
Yeah,
hosts that
that's
should really
what
talk
I'm
to
right
Google
now.
about their streaming issues. Is what he says.
This still says,
That's where I'm at right now in Slack.
it says live. Tells me it's going. I don't
Okay.
know what to
Is
do
this
about that.
Hangout under support?
I got a question for you. Is AppleScript a good thing to learn?
No,
Yeah. Well,
It
if
was-
you know it, it's
was.
handy, but.
it was a good thing to learn 10 years ago, 5 years ago, but
Perl was a good thing to learn 10 years ago.
Yeah, even 10 years ago, Pearl was fading, I think. I don't
but
know.
I would think if you wanted to learn to automate the Mac at that level at this point, I would just stick with JavaScript. That's what Apple's doing, and that's the future of that. Not that I know JavaScript or like it.
Right.
Oh, stop. Maybe you don't like it. You know JavaScript.
I know.
You know JavaScript.
I don't like
But
Not in the biblical way. Gotcha. No,
Sometimes I feel- anyway.
Python, I would have.
Well, but so I think Python's great if you want to do some serious scripting. But I think the thing that AppleScript would never replace something I would have done in Python,
True.
like or even Bash, right? I would have done AppleScript would have been stuff I was doing at that sort of, I need this button to get clicks on. I need this thing to be set up over here. I need this, like that stuff. Apple's doing all in JavaScript now.
Yeah.
Like if you want to do serious, like you want to script some stuff, like you want to set up new users, or you want to, I would learn Python. And Python long term is much more useful.
Okay.
And as a career objective, learning Python is much more useful.
Node. So many ways that
I'm not saying it's the only good
JavaScript-
thing. Yeah, I guess that's. I mean, Node.js is great.
It's just infecting so many other places.
Right. I mean, but yeah, maybe true actually. But
Python is
if I was
just
to
like,
go that way, I'd learn Java.
I think Python is less crazy.
But I like Python. I don't like Java.
JavaScript, like, some people have found it painful to try to understand why it does what it does,
Right.
versus Python, some people, it's like saying pseudocode. It's like
Right.
saying, I would like to loop over this data structure and pull out these things and then return them this way. Like being able to see how Python represents that makes sense to more people.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's much
Versus
more like
JavaScript being the Wild Wild West.
JavaScript's very, yeah. And when you start getting into real computer concepts, like real programming concepts, Python's going to teach you more sane stuff you can take to other languages than JavaScript's going to.
I was in the Python room. He was talking about how, hey, here's how I'm accomplishing something with subprocessed. Just like set up a bunch of printers because I got a whole bunch of them. I want to loop over it and set it up. He's like, how should I improve this? And I'm like, well, I'm sure Pylint would have a whole lot to say about how you should improve that according to what Pylint thinks is a better practice. That's like in the edicts of the language and the documentation is there's a good way to do this. This is it. We've optimized for this case. Therefore, you only really need to learn that one thing.
Right. One of the ideas behind the original design of Python was there would be one way to do everything. Like, it wouldn't give you 6 ways.
well,
You know. No, it's not true. I mean,
Right.
obviously, but one of the design goals was that there would be a Pythonic way to do everything. And
which
that-
is my problem with PyObc, which and
Right.
we've spoken about it. I've probably
Yeah.
mentioned it here. Like Python is awesome for like import obc and then or import Cocoa and fooling around and poking at the frameworks. But as soon as you start trying to write a real program, nothing you do is really Pythonic, and nothing you do is really
Objective-C.
Objective-C like, and it just turns into this awful mess very
Right.
quickly.
It's not good Python. It's not good.
Right, it's not good Objective-C, it's not good Python.
Yeah.
But it's fantastic for just poking at things and quickly like, oh, I want to go in here, iterate over this dictionary and poke through things. But like bigger apps just become such a mess.
But like 30 lines, there's a new format in LCAP for recent servers. Recent servers used to be in a plist,
Oh, right.
dog
right.
standard.
Yeah.
Now it's part of this shared file list,
Yeah, yeah.
.sfl files, and like
Yeah.
it's this completely complex thing. But in 30 lines of Python, hey, here's how you can access that data structure, and you're done.
Like a couple of codes, right?
I mean, for somebody else to spill along backward, like decompile, like do 7 different ways to actually get at, and then hand that finished product over to me. I can go, all right, now I can start. And all I have to do is represent data structures. It's not a big deal. Like being able to take everybody else's batteries and include them in my project.
Yeah.
Very powerful.
we'll also see where Swift takes this. You know, I think.
Now that they actually fulfilled their promise, good gosh darn, us putting it on Linux.
Well, you know, Python's interesting because it comes preloaded everywhere, and that's where Swift needs to get to be interesting in this way. I should
Right.
be able to write not compiled Swift. I should be able to write scripted Swift, push it out to a machine, and have it run
Yeah.
anywhere, ideally. But at least on OS 10 to start off with, we want the Swift runtime just sort of built in.
Yeah. Crypt 2 got converted to Swift.
That's right. I saw that.
I just tested it today, working like a charm.
Swift still scares me for a number of reasons, but the biggest one is because it's still a moving target. And if you go on GitHub right now and pull down Swift code,
Mm-hmm.
it could be 6 months old and it won't compile, right? Like there's tons of Swift code out there that's like already obsolete and broken. And Apple is kind of saying like, yeah, we're gonna make it stable in the next version. Oh my God. So like all this
Why
work
is it
I'm
out?
doing right now could just break the next version. So that feels to me the time to jump in. Once Apple says like, no, this is really stable and it's not changing again. That feels like they promised binary compatibility. So if you have a compiled application that was written in Swift,
Mhm.
that's going to keep running. Great. But writing it, I mean, I know I'm going to have to learn it at some point, simply because there's just more and more sample code is all Swift. Swift or nothing, you know. Didn't Dropbox just release their new API and it's Swift only? There's no Objective-C library for it that they delivered. It's only Swift.
All we hear about in the world is them canning 2 apps, not them
Yeah.
end of lifing stuff that they had users.
I was using neither of them, so I didn't particularly care. No, I mean, it's the truth. I didn't particularly care. Like,
Well, I just know that Dropbox does a lot of stuff, but it's not necessarily OS 10 specific that they would say, hey, we're just going to be so native that we'll be native
Well,
and
for
backwards
OS 10,
compatible.
The SDK that they released was Swift only, I think, last time I looked.
Wow.
So, yeah, that's pretty interesting.
More
So,
power to them.
definitely going to have to learn Swift at some point. I just don't know where the right point is. I don't know. I have other issues with Swift, but I'll just have to overcome this. My own personal biases.
I tried to install a software yesterday on my Mac called Kodi. It's an open source program. It's like XMBC.
Oh, yeah,
It has a lot of
Is that the new XMBC? Just renamed?
yeah, but it wouldn't take it. It says something about it doesn't recognize the developer. So
Oh, well, yeah, it's Gatekeeper trying to save you from yourself.
yeah, it's called Kodi. It's Kodi.
I'm sure they have a
Well,
write-up
they
of
said
that
for the
in their
phone, in
help.
order to put it on your phone, you need to jailbreak it. But I don't want to jailbreak my phone.
No,
I don't want to do that. So is there any way that I can get Kodi on my Mac? Or
Yeah, well, you already have it on your Mac. What you need to do is let it run. And if you right-click on the application, you'll get a menu. And you choose Open from that menu.
Oh, okay.
Now you'll get a dialog box that says, you sure about this? If you are, click Open. And
I
there's
got you.
Open
So I right-click
there,
on
and
it.
that'll let you.
That'll memorize an exception
Yes,
for that
that
one
will.
app.
Okay.
Yeah, and it won't bug you in the future.
Anybody? Did you play around with the new keyboard and the mouse?
Yeah.
Yes, I really like the keyboard. I can't get used to the mouse. The
With the mouse
trackpad.
track.
I
Did
can't.
did you always use the other track?
Yeah.
I use the other
The other
trackpad,
trackpad.
and I like it because it's like the mechanics work the way you expect them
expect
to.
it.
There's a hinge up top, and you click on the bottom, and it physically clicks. You know,
Diving board, yeah.
the new one is also physically wider.
Yeah.
So it's, I don't know. I just built up this habit with the other one where I kind of knew where the edges were.
Yeah, I'm
Like-
still not used to this trackpad, so I doubt that I would be used to that trackpad. It's the same weirdness
Yeah, it's the
of
same weirdness.
how do I be deliberate in I'm performing a limited range of actions
Yeah.
where it wants to be all I'm 3D and I'm trying to do a dictionary lookup just because I used a specific press.
Right.
Like I can't imagine that Apple's going to read my mind about what I'm doing when I'm touching the trackpad.
So
no matter where I am.
the keyboard is very nice.
Yeah, I like the keyboard. I mean, I use a mechanical keyboard, so I didn't stick with it. But and I used the new trackpad, but I really only use it for gestures. I use a mouse.
He has a
and
Right, yeah,
He has a
yeah.
mechanical
For
keyboard,
scrolling,
a mouse.
for navigating around and scrolling.
So I use the trackpad just for gestures, and it's great for that. But
Yeah.
it's not much of a use case.
Yeah.
And I tried
So
the new
he has
mouse.
a keyboard, a mouse, and a trackpad. So when
That's
he
a
wants to
gesture
like
pad.
bring
Yeah.
back to the mouse, you know.
Oh.
And you keep it to the right of the mouse,
The right
and
one.
you're right-handed.
Yeah, so he
Okay.
just boom, can reach over and swipe between
And I
stuff.
work.
You look like a DJ, right?
Yeah, I work all the time in full screen mode, so
Alright.
I use it to move between
Gotcha.
screens, and
But that's cheap. So
it's cheating. And I did try the new mouse.
trackpad.
No, the new mouse. There's a new mouse.
Oh,
too.
There's a
that's
new
right.
Yes.
Magic Mouse too.
The magic
And I didn't
mouse.
find it very different than the old one.
I find it
Was
somehow
fun.
better, but I don't know why.
I wasn't crazy, but I don't like that form factor. I think it's a good mouse, but I don't like the form factor.
So shallow, yeah.
It's so shallow. So I also didn't stick with it, but I like honestly, the built-in batteries, the USB, the lightning charging
Nice, yeah.
is nice. It's probably better in a lot of ways.
Oh yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, by the way, that code is the latest one is the 16.0 beta 3.
And I think that's the new name for XMDC.
Yeah, oh,
If I
so it is
if
the
I-
same.
If I remember, I think it is. Are you using that in AV rollouts?
I'm using Plex.
Plex,
I haven't
right.
used it. My son is using it, and I said, let me try it out.
Gotcha. Is the only install for that on iOS jailbroken? They don't have a version in the App Store.
It does stuff.
Okay, that
Yeah,
was my
it does
question.
certain
Or does it?
things.
Or are they doing
Same thing for Mac for that matter, but
Oh, yeah?
well, my interaction with it is blocking because it does such nasty stuff on
Really?
your network. I mean, it's trying to be aggressive and helpful, but
Interesting.
in
I haven't-
not outside of a home,
Yeah, interesting.
it's very aggressive.
Huh.
So,
What do you mean, the software itself?
yeah, if we have a bunch of users bringing in, running it, they don't even know what they're doing.
I got you.
It just starts exploring your network,
Yeah, I
reaching
got
out,
you.
looking for other.
Mm.
Well, like they're just like local broadcast. Like, hey, are there other?
Yes, but
XMDC.
it goes from there. It
Huh.
starts.
Well, that means I need to
Probing.
install that right away and see what some NetOps person or
Yeah.
SecOps person here says.
IR will give you a call.
Don't call them. They'll call
Oh,
you.
yeah.
I once needed to make an uninstaller for Clean My Mac or one of those.
Oh, yeah.
So I installed it to make the uninstaller, and I got a call from security almost immediately.
Is that right? Wow.
What are you doing? Your computer just made 200 alphabetical DNS requests to sites that we don't like.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, interesting. Well, I'm on your
And
side.
this is security from Apple?
No,
No.
Google security.
Google.
Oh, Google security.
Yeah, Google security call.
Interesting.
Wow.
No, I'm from Microsoft.
Yeah.
Microsoft Security.
Yeah, good. Exactly.
That's right.
Please send me $200.
Yeah, I give you $200. Interesting.
Did you actually want to do a quick yearly recap and where we're going? Predictions? What happened this year?
Weren't as great as people thought they were going to be, but have good futures. iPad Pro, MacBook.
I think the MacBook was the big surprise for me because when it shipped with Yosemite and it was awful, and I thought it was like a repeat of the original MacBook Air, the very original MacBook Air that was a disaster. And then LCAP came out and it made it like you're using one. It, like LCAP made it a decent machine, which was great. So that was a big surprise for me. I
Should try it
kind
again.
of like it now. And like I said, the iPad Pro, still kind of on the fence about. Anyone still has the Apple Watch? You still haven't?
Was that watch? That was this year.
That
Yeah,
was
that
this
was
year.
Yep.
Do you have an opinion on it?
Oh, very much. I mean,
Like now that you've been using it
the
for
same way that you call that a luxury, this is undoubtedly a luxury. And then I had to get it repaired.
Is that
So I took it into the store, and I'm like, how much am I going to miss this thing? And then every time I was thinking about the weather,
Yeah.
I went like that, and it was not there, and I was annoyed. And every time I had to unlock my computer, I had to go back to my phone to use Mac ID to unlock my computer with Touch ID, and I was
Oh my
like,
God.
oh my gosh, this is
Mac ID.
oh.
Like I think that scares the crap out of me.
It is on the it's on the the sketchy sketch side. But if somebody is able
Speaking
to
of
snoop
AppleScript,
to,
right?
to snoop on my Bluetooth to get the one password that they use over here, yeah, my life sucks.
Interesting.
I don't know how many people are going after. I don't think I'm an enemy of the state yet, so
With
I might be okay.
With the new WatchOS OS that
That's how
came
they
out,
get
what
you.
improvements will do on the watch?
What improvement did they do with the 2.0?
Yeah.
So now Mac ID is a widget on here. And like the craziest oversight is I use it for health, I use it for exercise all the
Mhm.
time. And there's no gosh darn complication for going to activities and starting an activity.
Huh.
Like it's so bizarre to me that I have to go into a full app and the like grid of apps screen to get there. I'm really waiting for, version 2 and 3 and 4, and I'm really glad that I have version 1 because when I got it repaired, I was like, it feels like a leash. I got to worry about charging it enough during the day that I can wear it overnight, but then I don't wake up my wife in the morning when I go to turn off my alarm clock. This goes off a minute before I know that one, and it improves my life.
All right. That's fair enough.
I hope that other people do give a good gosh darn about it, but I know that Apple is just fine with how it is.
Yeah. And Apple TV 4 was this year.
As I'm liking it compared to the others, which you can't do anything with. This is a big change.
Yeah.
Which you owned how
I
many of?
just don't like the idea.
Yeah.
I have
They took
two of
optical out,
You only have 2 of the
and this is
crappy
for
ones.
4K. So those are the two bummers on the new Apple TV.
Yeah, it doesn't
No
support-
optical, no 4K support.
Yeah,
Oh,
no optical
4K
out
TV.
for audio, you
Yeah,
mean, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Is optical really though? Like,
Well,
For
it makes
people
a
who have
difference.
receivers,
You see, it makes
you
a big
just want to
difference,
plug it
yes.
in.
like
optical.
HDMI audio is not high
I
quality
guess
enough.
it is. I guess it is.
But it's really, yeah. If you had a receiver set up,
Yeah.
I guess you'd have an HDMI receiver.
Yeah, you need an HDMI, which means you need another HDMI port. That's the problem at my house now. It's like I have a crummy old flat screen TV that's like relatively old, and like I got into flat screens really late because I had a CRT that still worked. And I used it till it died, right?
I was in somebody's house the other day that had a Sony, the square one. It
Omega.
looked fine.
With the flattened front
Oh,
on it.
yeah. So I got like
They're all about refresh rate.
Yeah.
The refresh rate is
Trinitron
great on
and
this.
but like
iStream.
the flat screen I have has like 2 HDMI inputs,
Right.
which of course is not enough.
Then
Right? So
go on Amazon, buy a
By a splitter.
HDMI switcher for
Which is
$80.
what I
I
have.
was just telling them my brother bought a 4K TV, and when he got it, he called my son, crying. He's like, "Man, soap opera effect, it sucks. I don't even know why you told me to buy this." And then he looked up and seen that and found out that the refresh rate makes a difference.
yeah, oh yeah.
So when he turned that off, and then I thought soap opera effect was something he made up, but it's actually something that
Yeah. Well, so what does that mean for the upcoming year then, if anything?
New MacBook Pros.
Well, yeah, we know Apple's going to refresh all this stuff over the next year.
Well,
But I think I need to do
I have a Beater 17.
shut up.
They're never shipping that thing
He
again.
was a
I don't know.
Oh, I was a big.
staunch proponent of the 17.
I love that thing.
I still break it out.
You know what would be nice? If they can
I don't miss
the
it,
new
though.
MacBook be white again. Bring the white back. I'm sure people miss the white.
Yeah, cosmetic
Maybe.
stuff.
Yeah.
Apple's all over on that.
I really hope they can upgrade all of this varied types of products over the course of a year because the Mini could use a you go to Mac Rumors Buyer's Guide and it's like red, and then that just got updated and it was the iMacs for 4K.
Oh yeah.
It's like, but 5K didn't really get changed, upgraded, and like there's a lot of freaking products that are way overdue. I'm sure the Mini is like
Like the TV.
they could snuff it in the night, and who knows?
Well, also before you showed up, we were talking about. You brought up the
TV?
Mac Pro.
Oh, the Mac Pro, yes.
Yes.
That's what I know.
He was saying that felt like a dead product. I don't feel like that
Because they don't talk about it. That's why.
it was super powerful for the time that it came out. So here we are 2 years later. I still use it, and I don't feel like, oh my god, this thing's lagging. Like it's still like a super powerful machine. So Mac Pro is still nice. I don't think that's a dead product to Apple. I think they'll just they have longer time to go
Between refreshes.
between refreshes.
But what
because-
does a really powerful Mac mean anymore? They're, converging iOS and Mac
yeah,
OS.
I mean that's
and
true. Like who
What's the
But dedicated graphics.
What's the
and,
use case
and
for-
the I/O?
Sure, for folks
Right.
like us.
But
I'm
maybe
just wondering-
maybe this goes back to Ed's point about the iPad Pro. Like Apple is at a stage where they do not need to sell 1 billion of each thing that they make. You know, it's a niche product. Video people will be interested in the Mac Pro. Audio people doing graphics. If, you work at a graphics house.
I'm sure
you got a
that-
Mac Pro.
At this point, the profit margin on the Mac Pro is enormous.
Oh my gosh, yeah, that's another one. That's like
And if they
if I
fix it-
complain about the expense of this Mac Pro, you're spending $9K and up
Wow.
easily, right? If you want a decent machine.
Innovation my ass, he said.
I saved us a bunch of money by only specking mine at 4,000. What am I doing?
But then we bought a lot of RAM.
We did buy a lot
Yeah.
of RAM.
They are
Like,
trying-
why aren't they connecting this as a Cintiq? As a Wacom.
They
So
have
someone
apps.
has an app that does it. It's not Apple's app, but there's a
Right.
third-party app that lets
And
you
it
do
does-
that.
and you don't notice that there's any lag or anything.
Right. It's got to be tethered, which is not like showstoppish. But like, I don't understand like why they don't do the pairing though themselves, first party,
Yeah.
to say like, hey,
That would be interesting. The other thing is getting an iPad Pro also made me go buy a Duet display. So you can turn that into a monitor.
yeah,
It's an interesting addition to a 12-inch MacBook to have a big display kind of
A
sitting right
bigger
next to it.
monitor.
more pixels on the
Yeah, it's
external.
It's kind of interesting.
The refresh is okay on it,
The refresh is fine because the trick
or like the lag of
the trick with Duet display is
If you tether.
you have to connect via USB
Yeah.
to Lightning. So the old one, what was the old one? Air display, right? And that would work over Wi-Fi, and it could get a little laggy and weird. Duet is only, as far as I know, it's only direct connection.
I thought Sam Marshall was saying that they were
Maybe.
just stealing open source, but
I don't think they were stealing open source, but it seems like they're using some private frameworks, and Apple is not complaining about it.
well, they dipped from Vue for a while. Is all that I noticed. Like it was on sale and well promoted, and then it was
Yeah,
kind of
yeah.
like, how's about we don't talk about those people anymore.
I guess it's still there, still for sale.
I don't like what they did with the Mac Mini. I mean, the way before when you first had it, you was
Yeah.
I
able to
haven't liked
upgrade it the
anything
way
they've
you want.
done
Huh?
with it. I haven't liked anything they've done
Mac
with the
Mini keeps getting nerfed. I don't know why.
Yeah.
And I was shot down on my Mac Pros, and they said, "Here's a stack of minis."
Yeah, but like you
Sound foolish?
referenced earlier, like
Well, I got the bandwidth I wanted, but
Right.
what's the power that you need, right? Like, Apple's clearly not doing servers anymore. I think.
Oh, okay.
They're clearly just out of that game on every front. Yes, you can get a Mac Pro and set up server on it, but I don't know.
What is it for?
What's it getting you these days? Like, I don't know. You gonna use the Xcode bots for a build farm? Maybe. Minis would work in that case. You could leave your laptop running server at home for a VPN and go out with just your iPad and iPhone and VPN home. I don't know if you need a dedicated server for that or not.
Well, if you have Plex and you're out there, you want to be able to get into your
Yeah.
library, you can log in using your VPN and
Yeah.
Slingbox.
Slingbox. Yeah.
so again,
Yeah, but
what are you doing?
Yeah.
Is what it comes down
What the
to.
hell are you?
Yeah. I think Apple kind of recognizes those as fringe use cases in some respects, but
They used to serve the fringe on some regards.
Right.
They
Well, this
used to-
fringe used to be their whole market.
Right.
yeah, that's true. That's true. So, was this besides refreshed products? What are we getting going forward? I don't know. Like, we saw a lot of people.
Documentation for launch date.
Yeah. Well, we saw.
2018.
I think we saw a lot of people this year hoping El Capitan was going to be, Snowsemite.
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah. So,
So, maybe we did get that. El Capitan
It's a lot better.
it's a lot better.
It made up for some.
Yeah.
It's a lot better.
Annoyances.
I think Apple needs to do that with iOS as well, and all these things that should just work, they need to make them just work, like AirDrop. It's a roll of the dice whether that's gonna work or not, right? Like, oh great, I got this file. Why is it not showing up there? Oh, I don't know. Turn it off and on again. It's so frustrating. that it doesn't just work. Like, I would like to see Apple get some of those things back in shape. Like, the next release should just be like, all those things that we say just work, now they just work. That would be amazing. And I in Apple's defense, a lot of these are hard problems. Wireless networking is a hard problem. There are reasons it doesn't just work, but I don't know, maybe better messages that say, like, I
Not
can't
your
find your
network is
device,
compromised.
or there's too much interference, or I don't know, but maybe a better message to me than just like never. Like, you could leave these two devices sitting here for like 10 minutes and it's just the other device never shows up and you're wondering why.
Yeah, I wonder if, like, it doesn't seem that Swift is going to make a dent on test first programming at Apple. Certainly seems like though they've said, hey, we can deliver testing suites, we can deliver continuous integrations that'll run tests, and we can enhance when you're already doing best practices, but it's kind of like, and then inside, are they actually eating their own dog food?
No.
Well, I think
Well,
their
or
teams
their
are
own-
so small. Their problems with
Their teams are so small and they're so separate from each other.
Right.
I think is the point. So, like, on GitHub, they had this open source Swift release, and they're following the Chrome model, where they're saying that is their master source, and that's where they're building and working from. Right? They're developing in the open, and there are tests for Swift. Whether that means that's the practice throughout Apple, I don't think that's the case, right? Like, that's the issue. Like, you're still going to see like these bugs in like Open Directory, and like, how did this get caught? Oh yeah, because we don't test, right?
But it's also like they're never going to go back and rewrite any of this stuff that's still going to be shipping 10 years from now.
Well, that's the mother of all questions, right? How do they transition all their frameworks to Swift? If they say this is the future for them, there's so much Objective-C and C code. Like, how do
C++
you move all your
code.
and C++? How do you move all of your OS frameworks over to Swift? I don't know. You don't do it in a short period of time, that's for sure. I mean, the day that they announced Swift at WDC, they announced a C-based framework, Metal. Metal's C-based.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't know.
And they should improve the games, the new games that have come out.
Absolutely. But, Swift, a few days before the open source release, got this, ability, or at least became more obvious to people how to wrap C libraries in Swift. And like, we're going to need that for the open source
Mm-hmm.
versions. Like, if you want to run this on Linux, you're probably just wrapping a bunch of C libraries.
And that's all you're doing.
Probably. So, I don't know. We'll say that next year with Swift is going to be really interesting, I think. I think that's one thing 2016 is going to bring. Like, more focus on Swift and its capabilities. Although when Apple announced Swift, if you go back, they didn't actually say, what was the quote that everyone brought away with from Swift? Something about like C without the C or something like that.
Objective-C without the C.
Objective-C without the C, and that was actually misquoted. They didn't actually say that. They said something more specific.
It was a lead-in to say, what if we had something like?
Yeah, and it wasn't, but everyone took away Objective-C without the C, and a lot of people got excited about Swift, and I don't think those same people are as excited now. I don't think those people dove into Swift and learned how to program, and like, there were a lot of people, right, when Swift was first announced, they were like, oh, well, Objective-C was always confusing, but this is going to be great, and I'm going to learn this. And I don't think those people did. Because Swift is still very complex in a lot of ways, and it feels like you're writing for the compiler. It feels like you're writing for Clang, right? You're writing for the compiler to go do a specific thing. I
agree. Like, I don't feel like you should have to think about compiling when you're writing code.
Ideally.
Yeah.
But all right. So there's our predictions.
But I think Swift has a lot of future.
Oh, well, yeah, Apple's doubling down on Swift. There's no question, right? Apple has put a stake in the ground, and
They already shipped early on iOS a full Swift app. A full rewrite
What?
calculator.
All right. Well, they have to move some of this stuff over, and I think they did in 10.11 too, didn't they? There were a bunch of things in 10.11 that.
Maps.
Yeah, there
One
were
of them.
a bunch of things that got moved to Swift in applications, I think. I have to look, but I know when 10.11 came out, I kind of scripted, looking up
How can you tell?
the framework. So Swift has to be statically compiled, and the Swift runtime gets statically compiled into the binary. They can't do it any other way right now because there's no Swift runtime on the machine.
So they're essentially bundling
It's
it
linked
with the
against
app.
the Swift library. So, and I think there's at least a little Swift in each of the main applications now. But I mean, Apple can do that all they want. Third-party developers really need to, do this. Like, think about the major applications on OS 10: the Adobe products
Mhm.
and Microsoft Office. How quickly are they going to transition to Swift? Not a chance, right?
IBM's trying to rattle the saber because IBM wants as much mindshare as they can get.
Sure, but rattle the saber with what?
They did that. You're playing with it. The
That's
webpage
awesome. But how does that?
runtime.
What's IBM shipping on OS 10 that anyone in this room cares
What's IBM
about?
shipping on iOS is more like it. Like
Okay.
they're trying to do hey, we're going to wrap workflows and apps for your
What's
industries.
IBM shipping on iOS that anyone in this room cares about? No, I'm genuinely asking. It's not the Adobe product and it's not Microsoft Office.
They have long been not in that market, though. They have
Fine.
long been in that consulting mode. So when it comes to actual Class A developers,
Yeah. It's, if you're Adobe, you have so much history.
hmm
Like, it's going to take years to convert to Swift.
They still can't make a package.
So,
Hey,
much less.
come a long way.
Anyway,
One day.
any questions from anyone? Anyone struggling with anything that we want to wrap up on before we wrap up?
Besides Puppet Labs.
What's Puppet? What's the issue with Puppet Labs?
What's not the issue with Puppet Labs?
I don't know.
They shipped they're doing a replacement for M Collective in parallel. So they shipped it before the server was ready for open source only.
Huh.
And they've been shipping launchd jobs with no reverse DNS naming since they've doing this new collections thing. So they're trying to ape some of Chef, but then for their paying customers, they don't actually release it in time because they're going to have open source beta test it. But open source doesn't run current.
Right.
Open source never runs current. General.
It's so frustrating because some really good Mac people went to Puppet. So when they miss things like that, it's really disappointing.
But they still have the etcauth code in core, and it's
Right.
guys, just rip it out. Just stop putting it in your docs.
Yeah.
Don't even talk about it anymore. It's dead to you.
Right.
You don't support earlier than 10.9 officially.
Right.
Why is etcauth in there? It's never been important there.
Yeah.
So there's just lots of things where they're going in between these models of we're going to give you a console for configuration, and yet the stuff that we tell you can use doesn't work in our console.
Yeah. Interesting. We just use the open source release, and I don't think we haven't run into that because we just compile the open
And
source
you're on
release.
3 versus 4.
Yes, we're not on 4 yet. I don't know. It is something that we talk about a lot. We try to reevaluate what we're doing rather than just let the inertia take us, and this is what we're going to do for all time without thinking about it. Every now and then we're well, do we need Puppet? Is that the best tool if we were rebuilding everything now? For us, it more or less is.
Well, I think, to be completely honest, the decision we come up with is usually, if we were going to start from scratch,
Right.
we might not pick Puppet.
Yeah, we might nowadays. we might not.
The rewards of switching wouldn't be that great.
That's true.
We have a huge, not inertia, it's a huge code base, and
Yeah.
experience with Puppet. So, we have a lot of rules, a lot of.
Starting from
Ruby.
scratch, what would we use?
I don't know. We'd have to re-examine.
I don't know.
We probably one of our main things if we started from scratch would be something else would be getting away from Ruby.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
So-
No
Well,
Ruby.
luckily Puppet is beating you to it.
Yeah.
They got a proof of concept Puppet in C.
Yeah. Well, they don't want you to. They started out calling it C Factor, and apparently they hate that name now. It's called
It's still in
native.
docs.
Native Factor is what you're supposed to call it, but C Factor, Native Factor, whatever. It's in C now.
Yeah.
Which is good.
And they're using real structuring of the actual data that they output instead of just, hey, everything's a string.
Yeah.
Ruby, everything's a string. Go to town.
Yeah.
But yeah, like the nice thing about seeing that is knowing that they're losing that dependence on Ruby, though, because then other
Yeah.
languages can become first class citizens.
By the way, you missed your opportunity. When I asked what would we switch to, you're supposed to say Casper.
I wouldn't say that.
I don't.
Casper sucks for inventory.
Yeah, I don't know what we would use, but you know.
Passwords not that great. The software that protects all your passwords,
1Password?
they want passwords. So they're good.
1Password is awesome.
My only complaint about 1Password is its reliance on Dropbox.
Yeah.
Like that's a nuisance.
when
It's not
they
a huge
got-
nuisance, but
They announced, oh, you can sync another way. No, only on Wi-Fi. Only-
yeah,
Yeah.
not real syncing that
Right.
you actually want to do.
Right.
That's my only complaint. Otherwise, I
yeah,
love 1Password.
they don't. But
But on the
Using
other
it
hand,
with-
they talk to each other and they make it work. Not only like
I was gonna
Dropbox
say,
really makes it
yeah,
work.
agree.
in all
Right,
fairness,
that's true.
that solution does work really
Right,
well.
that's true.
But I do agree that
I'd rather have that than we work with everything, but not well.
Or LastPass, and
yeah.
we want to be web first. And yes, nothing could possibly go wrong in a web stack. Nothing could possibly go wrong.
Either that or now 1Password has to write their own syncing solution that does something.
And I was actually going to
always a
say
mess.
the one thing in the multi-window world of iOS, the one thing I love is 1Password. Being able to just swipe from the right, get my
Right.
passwords
Without having to leave.
without having to
That
leave
is
it,
true.
and without having and using Touch ID to unlock my
Yes.
password. Ah, man, that's so sweet.
Yeah,
That is, but
yeah.
It's a
haven't used-
great experience.
But the other way to do that with 1Password is 1Password shows up in the share sheet.
Yeah.
So now you're on a web form.
It
Oh,
wasn't
yeah.
first party in the Safari web view. It's now, as
Yeah.
of 9.2, just released
But that's
today.
only-
Oh,
But I'm not always
It's allowed.
But it's only in Safari.
But that's
Yeah.
only in ones that have
Yeah.
the share sheet
That's
period and that
all I use.
knows to do that.
No,
information.
but no, it's the 9 times out of 10 I want a password at 1Password. It's my banking password
yeah.
for the banking app,
Yes,
or it's
right.
Netflix password for the Netflix app, or
Yeah, apps that
know,
don't have that
it's not
integration.
always a web.
I don't want to go too far down the rabbit hole, but
Too late.
yeah. What we need is a new OS for the iPad. Because
Oh, you like bifurcate the.
yeah,
Nice.
there's no reason we need to run the same OS as the phone.
Yeah.
TV OS, Watch OS, Mac OS,
iOS.
iOS, or iPhone OS, iPad OS, right? Everyone got their own OS except the phone and the tablet, and it feels like now iOS
Especially
9,
on here, they're not making use of the real estate.
Giant
right?
ugly
iOS
cousin.
9 now has this nice split screen function.
Uh-huh.
We know the device can do windowing. It's built in to the OS now. Like, give me some of the power that this has that I don't need on my phone.
I would be pretty upset if I was an iOS developer, and suddenly you told me that I was going to lose half my market because I would have to redevelop for iPad OS,
No, I'm not saying
or develop
that-
separately. Even if I would have to redevelop, I would have to maintain a
And that's going to keep Apple up at night.
Yeah.
Well,
no, but it
that's
could,
gonna
it
They've
could
pulled
be
stunts like, you
Yeah,
just
that's
set your
true.
targets and you
It could
you hit the
still-
2X button in the corner.
Right.
It'll
it
look
could
great.
Still be it could still be iOS, but just like expose more functionality
Right.
on the tablet.
or it could be a long-term separation. Like in 5 years, they're going to be separate OSs for do this for now.
And that doesn't preclude someone having an app that runs on both, or you could sell this universal app that runs on both.
Right,
But
and you could also
the OS itself exposes
Doesn't-
more functionality.
right. We're also like, it's all good. It'll all be Objective C. How many libraries one OS shares with another could be. The iOS and the iPhone OS and iPad OS could share 80% of the libraries.
Yes.
And
I say I'm never not annoyed by split screen on the Mini. On the iPad Mini, it is just so freaking annoying that it's trying to give me just go. No, I wasn't talking to you.
yeah,
Yeah.
Every single time, I just happen to make a gesture from it, and that's
Yeah.
part detection, but it's also like, they could certainly use 'cause that looks huge when you're in a folder.
Yeah.
It looks so senior citizen view when you're looking at a folder.
I got to give it to Microsoft. They snapping is much better than what Apple when they came out with the split screen.
They've had more practice.
Yeah,
Having that first party.
yeah.
Well, that is a good point.
Well, all right.
That's how far
Maybe
that's how
not
far I can get with
2016, but
this.
we'll see.
That particular
Tab
one
OS
yeah.
in 2019. Maybe.
all right.
All right.
That's a good prediction.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks a lot.
All right.